Hey guys, welcome back to Seller Sessions. Destaney, Wishon is back to the show. How you doing, Destaney?
I am doing amazing. How are you, Danny?
Excellent. Prosper next week. I know that everyone on the podcast is probably sick of hearing this, but you're going to be there as well. You're doing a presentation at Prosper also, a little bit outside of your wheelhouse, from my understanding.
Yeah, I'm speaking on Amazon Post, the customer engagement tool, and the direction Amazon's going with social commerce.
Right. Cool. That is outside your wheelhouse, but I know you can cover it anyway. It's just interesting for the level of knowledge that you have on PPC. So let's talk some PPC today. Obviously, cost per clicks have been going up. We can cover a bit of that. We'll get into DSP and display. But where do you want to kick off from?
Yeah, I have really just been kind of keeping an eye on the industry and some of the things we've been seeing. And I think it's really important to start with just where we're at. And like one of the biggest things I've been telling people is like, go to Amazon, type in your number one keyword and look at what page one looks like. It's crazy saturated. Amazon's put a lot of weight on Amazon ads, editorial recommendations, highly rated carousels, videos. And it's like, if you're not in the top 4, you're not getting a lot of visibility, which has caused a lot of complexities, I think, for Amazon sellers, because they're kind of still in that mindset of 10% ACOS is achievable, 25-cent CPCs. So we're really seeing a big shift in the industry, and that combined with out of stocks and supply chain issues and marginal decreases, it's been a lot to manage.
Yeah, it has. And this is well, just speaking of show, like we see from March last year as that steady curve up, just around the COVID bump when sales came back down from the peak as well. But no, it's definitely interesting times. I've got a show that I did with Liran as well, if people want to watch that, where we're talking about alternatives as well, mixing the PPC within some influencer marketing as well, because it's obviously good to blend channels in terms of getting the best bang for your buck. But it's definitely interesting times. And I was talking to Adam Heist as well, again, on another show. We're talking about aggregators eating up all the impression share and having deeper POG hits. But then if that market shakes out, we might see adjustments on cost per click at some point where there's less money being spent. But it's definitely a time where people have to be a bit more creative, getting through it. So what are some of the things, other than obviously bid less, which is which is right, but at the same time, if you're not in the ad placement algorithm, then it's pointless. What are some of the things, sophisticated things that you guys are doing in order to balance off the rising costs of PPC, but kind of dialing in and making the most of things?
Yeah, I think Amazon sees it's starting to be pay to play, and there's 2 things that are going to come from that. One, they're going to give us more placements to pay for. I think that's kind of the biggest one. We're getting sponsored display assets. We're getting more creatives. We get custom image, lifestyle images for both sponsored brand, sponsored display. So Amazon's wanting us to diversify some of our spend away from sponsored products. And then some of the things they are doing with social commerce. Amazon Post right now, you're getting a ton of free inventory just by, running a few posts that are very similar on the product detail page than any of our ads. So what we're doing is really focusing on those new assets. Even though they're not amazing right now, we know that's the direction Amazon's going to go, because they don't want top of search to be saturated and pay to play, because then people are going to start spending their money elsewhere. Because, cost per acquisition can be insane in some of these categories. So we're really investing in the new ad types that we're seeing, and then kind of testing all the different things Amazon's rolling out.
Yeah. So how much time do you invest in these new ad types? Because I'm not sure the most recent data, but it was about 83% still comes from sponsored products. So law of averages, like you want to go where the conversions are, but equally you still need to test these new ones, because like when video ads took off, people had a good run with that before the cost of clicks went up.
Yep. So we see around 70-75% coming from sponsored products. That's strictly due to the inventory available. There's one main headline search ad on page 1 versus 8 sponsored product ads. If you scroll all the way to the bottom of the page, you'll see 3 more sponsored brands, and then you have the video and search ad. But due to ad inventory, it's always going to be heavily skewed towards sponsored products right now, which means we have around 15 to 20% being driven from sponsored brands, depending how competitive the category is. and then around 5% from sponsored display. Sponsored display is the harder one for people to swallow, I think, because you have product targeting, category targeting, audience targeting. They're not really sure how to manage the audience targeting, because then you have remarketing purchases, remarketing your competitors, and then target anyone who has a cat between the ages of 19 and 30. They're not quite as familiar with that form of targeting because it's more upper funnel. So it's a little bit more complex to run.
Yeah. What about what kind of things you seeing advantages for DSP? Obviously, sellers that are a lot larger and able to have some spend, especially after they're dialed in on their sponsored products, and they've got on platform, if you like to call it that way, nailed, and they're looking for some competitive advantages. What are you seeing were beneficial in DSP?
The expectations I've been setting when I'm auditing brands for DSP is with Amazon search, which is your sponsored ads, you are waiting for a customer to type in a keyword and then showing them an ad. So you know they're ready to purchase because they already targeted your keyword. So you're waiting on them to come to you, then you're closing the deal. With DSP, the remarketing is amazing. The audience data is amazing. You get 90 times more data than you do on search. But the real value of it is you're going out and getting your customers. You're saying, hey, I think this audience segment would fit really well for me. I'm going to go find them and tell them they need my product. So if I'm selling a car seat for the ages of 8 months to 12 months, I can target everyone who was searching for prenatals 12 months ago. It's that kind of targeting that really, I think, has a lot of opportunity because you can get incredibly creative with the kind of audience you're looking for, but you're never going to have as high a purchase intent as targeting someone who's already searched for your product. So I think understanding the difference in mentality and why DSP is so powerful is where you really unlock the advantages. If you go into it just wanting a really high ROAS because your CPCs are expensive, it's probably not the best way to go about it.
Yeah. And what should people be looking for with DSP? If they're looking into doing it, is there anything specific in terms of size of catalog and things like that? When you have your check sheet, what are you going through in terms of where people would qualify for DSP?
So you can run DSP on a $5,000 a month budget. A lot of kind of agencies are selling that model and just only focus on remarketing. But you can do that on sponsored display without a minimum. So I always recommend doing that on display. If you're really wanting to look at DSP as an opportunity for your brand, I look at high price point products that you're going to want to set like a ton of frequency and serve an ad to, so that way you can get someone to convert, because most people don't buy high price point products within the moment of clicking on the listing. They need time to think about it. So that's a good advantage. Anything that has a long lifetime value. So if you have a consumable or a product that people are continuously repeat purchasing, dog food, trash bags, those type of items, DSP does incredibly well because you can have a lot of control over those timeframes. It is still like an impression-based model. So if you're not getting a lot of traffic, you're probably not going to be able to spend a ton. So we recommend doing like your highest conversion rate, highest traffic products, and then doing at least $10,000 worth of spend per those products.
And what do you want to see this year in terms of, we've seen a lot of inventory being added in terms of ad types and stuff for Amazon, but what are some of the missing links for you? What are some like the top 5 things that you would like to see being implemented?
I believe Amazon's going to have to start giving us more data. If we are spending more money with less return due to competition on the space and ad inventory and CPCs, Amazon's going to need to give us more data to prove that our ad spend's worthwhile. So brand metrics was a huge step in the right direction. That's allowed us to really tie in retail data, ad data on the platform and analyze our conversion rate relative to our category average and category top. But I think we're going to need more. I think we need to have like more attributed sales on sponsored brands to the ASIN level. I think we're going to need to start seeing ranking opportunities. Like we're going to need some form of correlation and organic lift with ad spend. That's almost going to have to happen, especially with some of the new terms of service changes officially saying nothing gray hat is now working. But that's probably the biggest pieces. More display ad types, better targeting on display, more creative control, those things. Yeah.
So if people are looking at a preferential order, obviously sponsored products is key in most cases.
Yep.
But how would you rank these in terms of, all right, we dial in the sponsored products. Where is it after that? Where do you go next normally to look for your best yield?
Sponsor brands, the headline search ads, landing pages, store pages. I mean, you're able to advertise multiple products for the price of one. When CPCs are really expensive, that's a major value add. It's also the top placement on the page, huge value add. And they perform incredibly, incredibly well. Video and search, I'm going to put next. Even though it's one of the top placements, it has the highest click-through rate from what we've seen of all the ad types. There's limited inventory. So if everyone's bidding on this one placement on the page, it's going to get really expensive fast. So we've seen it being beta tested on the PDP. We've seen it on page 2. I need them to expand that inventory, maybe off platform. We need more video assets. And I think they need to improve their ability to roll out video assets internally, because that's a high cost for people with large SKUs to do 500 unique videos since you're driving to a product detail page.
Yeah. And in terms of when you've got new clients coming on and you're looking at their accounts as well, do you see what we see is that a lot of people are not dialed in on their keywords? They're using what I call neighboring keywords, where they're obviously got lots of impressions. They're not washing them against brand analytics in terms of frequency, rank, and sales and stuff. And the search terms are quite broad because they're going after search volume. Do you see a lot of this as well? And you just find is once you cut through that, you'll get to a stage where, though there'll be a less impressions, obviously, through the campaign, there's more connection in terms of relationship to the keywords.
100%. We've really started looking at the keywords that we're targeting on a basis of conversion rate and making more adjustments based off CVR instead of ACOS, because like you said, we're hopping in accounts and, you know, a client will reach out and be like, well, why is my ACOS 300% on this keyword? And I'll take a look at it. I'm like, well, it's a really broad keyword and your conversion rate's less than 5%. They're like, well, why is my conversion rate so bad? How do you improve that? And I'm like, with sponsored products, we can't, because we're driving to your listing. So there's 2 questions that need to be asked. It's 1, why are you converting so bad? Is something wrong with your listing? Or 2, why are you targeting this keyword if your customers don't want to purchase your product after clicking on your ad? So we've kind of started looking at everything as a more holistic approach of, how are we converting? Should we be driving traffic? Because when everything is so much more expensive, that wasted spend can really do some damage. Back in the old days, it was 12 to 14 cents for a bad keyword. Now, when you're paying $2, it adds up quickly.
Yeah, indeed. What are some of the, I've covered like some of the things you want to see come this year, but where you seeing PPC itself going? If you had a crystal ball rolling out this year, like how the market is shaking down, what do you think we're seeing by Christmas?
I would like to see more social integration. So Amazon Post potentially being a paid opportunity. You know, they've released this follow button, which I think we're going to be able to take advantage of at some point. We can now send emails to anyone who follows us, specifically on Vendor Central, slightly rolled out on Seller Central. And I think those are really good assets, because if PPC is pay to play, people need to spend their money elsewhere. The smaller brands can't compete with these huge brands, so they're going to need to give them a different way to drive traffic affordably. I think using their display network will be really powerful if we could start bidding on more ads that are outside of on platform with better control, because you can't just give that power to anyone. But I think those are the 2 biggest things I would like to see.
Cool. Is there anything else you want to cover before we go? Because we've covered quite a broad set of questions there. And could you answer the question so quickly and articulately? It just gets it done. That's what I like about you. It's just like no nonsense. Like I ask you a question, it's like, boom, you give the answer and then on to the next. There's no wasted words. And I think we kind of put 15 minutes packed in there.
One thing I've seen in this space and that I'm predicting is just a natural increase in TACOS that's going to be really hard to combat for smaller sellers. And we actually had a really powerhouse roundtable on this topic, and I think it was in Q4. It was with Liron, Lazar, Ellis, you, and we talked about the trends that we're seeing in this space. And there's 2 things that are really impacting TACOS. TACOS is your advertising spend divided by your organic sales. We're seeing organic sales being a lot harder to get because you have so much advertising placement on page one and so much more competition for ranking when you can't do any rank manipulation or get reviews really fast. And then on the flip side, we're seeing Amazon advertising cost increase. So if last year we spent $5,000 a month and this year we spent $5,000 a month, we're probably getting less in sales this year at the same amount of spend, just because it's that much more expensive that we are getting less clicks and less value for our dollar. So with those two things, I think they're going to work together to make the trend in average TACOS be closer to 10 to 15%, unless Amazon finds a way to give more advantage to smaller sellers trying to get ranked, maybe a bigger honeymoon period or less saturated page one with advertising. I think unless those things happen, it's going to be a lot harder.
Indeed. Excellent. Best way that people can reach you?
Check me out on LinkedIn. It's probably where you're going to find the most content and PPC help. And if you have any questions, I'm always there to help, or check us out at betterams.com.
Excellent. Guys, thank you for joining us today. Destaney, thank you. Join us. If it's your first time, don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Take care of yourself and your family. Much love, and I'll see you again soon.